Members, we are live on YouTube now, so just be aware of that. We will be processing in about a minute, I think. So just please take your seats and be ready for the meeting to begin. Thank you.
Please be seated. Before I start the meeting, if you feel hot, you can take your jackets off, please.
It's my day.
So we can start the meeting now. Before the meeting, we have priest Jagna. She will pray for us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julia Jagannath. I am a priest in the Church of England and my church is in the London Borough of Ealing. I'm based in Northolt. So I've been invited to say a prayer of blessing this evening. And so I'm going to respectfully offer my prayers on behalf of those here who are Christians, as well as on behalf of those of other faiths and of none. If you feel comfortable to join in with the amen at the end, then please do feel free to do that. Almighty God, I pray your blessings on the mayor, the leader, and all who have been elected to serve here in the London Borough of Ealing. I pray also for the chief executive, senior officers, and all staff. They bear a great weight of responsibility, and I ask that they may know the love and presence of you, O God, as they make decisions and lead this council. I ask that you graciously grant to all who serve wisdom to govern well amid the conflicting issues and interests of our times, a sense of the true needs of this community, and a desire for justice, and compassion. I pray also that we would be able to work together well in the London Borough of Ealing. We pray for the agenda set before the council today. Grant everyone here wisdom, foresight and knowledge as they answer questions, look at the council plan and the contract procedure rules. Lord God, I give you thanks for everyone who serves and works here, and I ask that you give them deep joy and peace in every aspect of their lives. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Tonight, the meeting will be broadcast live and recording retained on the council YouTube site. Therefore, I will presume everyone consent to the happening. If you do not consent to this, then you should leave the meeting. There are a number of councillors who will be joining us remotely tonight by Zoom. These members will not be counted as formally being in attendance at the meeting for the purpose of Section 85 of the Local Government Act 1972. However, their virtual attendance will be recorded in the minutes under item 1. The member in attendance virtually will be able to speak at the meeting, but won't be able to take part in the vote. Are there any apologies for the absence?
Councillor Paul Driscoll.
I've received apologies from councillors Mason, Brett, Kwanzaa, D. Martin, Hiley, Sahota, and I've just heard here Councillor Driscoll. Is that right? Councillor Driscoll, and apologies for lateness from Councillor Kate Crawford.
Are there any declaration of interest? Sorry.
Madam
I
Mayor,
have received.
Madam Mayor, can I seek clarification from Helen Harris? Are we actually taking decisions here this evening, or are we just discussing the intention to take decisions? Because if we're taking decisions, those of us who are landlords in the borough or council tenants in the borough would all need to declare an interest.
We'll be taking decisions this evening, and whether you declare an interest will be for individual councillors to determine.
I have also received apology from the Chief Executive, and Helen Harris, the Director of Legal and Democratic Service, is here in his place. She's here. Are there any declarations, interest, anybody? No. Can the clerks read out the names of those members who are in attendance virtually? Sorry, Sam.
So just before we do declaration, I just need to read out those who are in attendance virtually for the benefit of those in the room and those watching online. I have Councillor Rye, who is attending virtually. I can see on Zoom at the moment.
Are there any declaration of interest?
Okay, just for the record, so I'm clear. So we got Veneer Ahmed at the back, Bassam Mahfouz, Chital Munro, Gareth Shaw, Chesbir Anand, got your name, Safras, Shabazz Ahmed, Sanjay Kohli, Praveen Anand, Ranjit Dia, Amarjit Jammu, I forgot your name, sir. Dr. John Martin,
Monica.
Mohammed, and
Mrs. Band,
there you go, and then Tony Young, sorry.
Young.
Councillor Young, sorry.
Yes, yes. I
Sorry,
need
but-
your name.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I mean, on a point of order, if these are decorations, we do need to understand what decoration is, not just have a list of names.
Yes, it would be, I assume that everyone is declaring that they are a landlord in relation to particular aspect of the council plan, is that or? Oh, yeah.
Madam Mayor, my declaration of interest is based on a wider interest because we are discussing the whole of the council plan. So when I raised my hand, I wasn't really limiting myself to just one area. So my declaration of interest is, for the whole council services. Thank you.
And is that a pecuniary interest? Because if it is, then the members will need to leave the meeting. Just being clear.
Unless the mayor were minded to take the debate on the council plan in more than one part and put the section which had the tenants and landlords in it as a separate debate. Otherwise, I agree with you, we should all depart.
I was going to say, if it's a pecuniary interest, then you will need to leave. I confess I haven't, I'm struggling to remember the bit of the plan where landlords will have a pecuniary interest, but I'm assuming Councillor Young has noted that.
GAH8,
Sorry?
GAH8 and GAH9.
Just as clarity, I don't believe, Madam Mayor, that it would actually be a pecuniary interest because it is an extension of the landlord licensing scheme. So it would actually cost those who have just expressed their interest a little bit more money to apply for that license if they fall into the wards that are covered. Yes, no, it's interest of money that's coming in, but it's actually a worst case for those who are taking part in the debate. So yes, and also this is a plan to implement the decision. The decision will be taken at a later date and at a later cabinet meeting.
Well, in terms, well, you're taking the decision to adopt the plan. Sorry, I'm trying to you raised the point, Councillor Young, and I'm trying to sort of work out whether there is a decision in which there will be a disclosable pecuniary interest here. I think it could be said that this is a plan which is looking at the issue more generally, and it will be a subsequent decision in cabinet will take the decision on whether to make this policy. This is simply a high level document. It's not something where I think landlords have had to leave before. So yeah, I would say that you don't have to leave the meeting for that unless you feel you want to.
Yes, just I would move to next business, but also just to remind that when the licence was brought in originally and the form, then I believe all councillors did stay in the room. It was decided.
Interested, leave the room. Question is whether we're making a decision by adopting the
Yes, and
council plan.
that was at cabinet, Councillor Young.
Yes,
Not at the full council meeting.
Yes.
When that item was introduced at the full council meeting.
it wasn't decided
for
on the full
no,
council meeting.
as part of the council plan, which is what we're doing now.
It wasn't decided on at the full council meeting.
No, and it's not being decided tonight either. It will be decided at a further point of cabinet. That is the point.
Madam Mayor, I would suggest that it is for individual councillors to decide whether they feel they have an interest such that they want to leave the meeting, they feel they have to leave the meeting, whether they have a disclosable pecuniary interest, and so individual councillors can take that decision themselves.
Everything is clear now. We can move the next item, please.
How are you dealing with the declarations of interest that we've already heard?
Well,
We will take in the,
we've noted that individual councillors have said that they are landlords, whether they consider that they are disclosable pecuniary interests to the extent that they need to leave the meeting will be for individual councillors to determine themselves. Are you minded to take the debate in two different parts, Madam Mayor, or all at once? That's
no.
in that case, it will be for individual councillors to take their own decision as to whether or not they feel they have a disclosable pecuniary interest in the debate. Councillor.
Ranjit, please.
Madam Mayor, I think it's going to complicate things if the legal advisors that councillors who have pecuniary interest in renting those properties, they should not be in the meeting. But we have a whole debate on the council plan. So which part of the meeting those councillors should excuse themselves from? That is the complication that you see we are discussing, because many members will refer to housing in their speeches. So how would you, at the procedural level, handle the debate when various members are referring to housing issues and those councillors who have declared a pecuniary interest, when should they leave the meeting? Thank you.
Sorry, so Madam Mayor, if I may, so and it does affect me, I put my hand up for my own pecuniary interest here, just to be clear. But I am happy to take part in the debate and stay present in the meeting, because it is guidance to be taken at a future point at a cabinet meeting. So the actual decision will be in the future. So to sit in this meeting personally, I do not believe that I have a pecuniary interest in just debating the council plan in its whole over the next year. And we'll come back to this again next year.
Thank you. So what's your heading? So next meeting, so we will clear everything. So the next is minutes. Are the minutes of the meeting held on 21st June 2022 agreed as a correct record of proceeding? Thank you. Item 4 is a mayor sign. Okay. The next item is the mayor's announcements. 27th July was Friendship Day. I hope some of you have able to mark this important day. I attended this Descendants Award ceremony held in Doubletree Hilton Hotel in Ealing, which was very enjoyable events. The second, I attended the annual civic mass at Ealing Abbey on Saturday, 3rd of July. It was my first visit to Catholic Church and must say I thoroughly enjoyed the service and feel honored to be have been invited. This Friday, I will hosting a thank to reception for NHS staff. I do hope many of you will be joining me and Deputy Mayor on Friday here in the chamber to thank the NHS staff and volunteer of their valuable contribution to our community during the COVID-19 pandemic. So please join us here 5 o'clock Friday. Finally, please look out for the Save the Times from the Mayor's office, which lists the dates of my fundraising events for my mayor's years. I hope you will all support me in raising funds for my chosen charity, Ealing Sport Group, which does lots of good work for the local community. I hope you will all support me, please. And item 5 is there is no petition from member of the public tonight. Are there any petition from the member of the council? No. Question from the members of the public. We have 4 public questions tonight. Can I ask Margaret Thompson to ask the question from Lettery, Costain, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate Action? Margaret. Margaret, do you have only 3 minutes, please?
Madam Mayor, councillors, my question is as follows. Why are 4 parking spaces in Strauss Road W4 reserved exclusively for the Chiswick family practice between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. each weekday, when the family practice moved to Acton at the end of March 2022? And I would ask that those 4 parking spaces be returned to public use, subject to controlled parking zone R, which applies to Strauss Road. That's
Thank you very much for the question and for raising the issue, but I can confirm that officers are currently taking steps to change the designation of the parking spaces that you mention, and we're hoping to do it within the next 6 to 8 weeks. So just to explain, the Highway Service is responsible, as you know, for the implementation and amendment of parking restrictions on the council's roads. We weren't given any advance notification that the practice was going to move. However, we did find out, we were told at the end of March. And at that point, the team began preparing for the bays to be changed. Now, the way we change a bay, it's not as simple as it might sound that you can just change the signs there and then. There is actually, there's legal requirements involved in it. So to change these to permit holder bays, as you've suggested, which is exactly what we would be looking at doing, we would need an amendment to the traffic order in order to do that. And that's the legal document that allows us to actually enforce the restrictions. We can't enforce the restrictions unless we change the traffic order. And we are not able to use a temporary traffic regulation order, which would be much simpler and easier to do. We're not able to use that, to suspend the practices bays and change them to permit holder bays, because TTROs, as they're called, they can't designate new parking places. So we're not able to use that. So instead, we have to use the more standard amendment to the existing traffic regulation order, or a TRO. You've probably heard that mentioned before. So now to amend a TRO, to make it more complicated again, it's actually quite costly. So what we don't do is just amend them, as they come up. What we try to do is to, make sure we get value for taxpayers' money. We amend them in batches. So when we've got a few that we need to amend, we put them all through together. Now, we do have a batch coming up because we've got the new Highways Improvement Programme, and where we're investing millions in upgrading our local roads and pavements over the next 12 months, and that was agreed just recently via individual cabinet member decision, and that will include some changes to the TRO. So whilst we're doing that, we'll also add in this particular set of bays. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that within, as I say, the next 6 to 8 weeks. So they should be there and they should be ready for use again. But thank you very much for raising the issue and for making sure that we do what we were intending to do, but that we give you a timeline for it.
Margaret, do you have any supplementary question?
No, thank you, I don't. That's
Thank
very
you.
helpful.
Thank you. And the second question is, can I ask Ting Tang Jiang to ask her question to Councillor Asha Raza, Cabinet Member, for tackling inequality? Hello, excuse me, before starting, 3 minutes you have.
I feel unsafe walking to Ealing Broadway station through Haven Green at night, or walking to St Mary's Percival through Pitzana Park. When I walk through Bunny Park, I see blatant drug taking. There have been robberies in broad daylight in Ealing Broadway. Is the council proposing any new measures to counter crime and make women like me feel completely safe in this borough?
Thank you for your question, Ting Ting, and thank you for coming here today. So as a council, we're currently finalising the details of our report and the findings from the Safer Ealing for Women, which was a listening exercise. This report would detail the key sort of behaviours that women have been reporting back to us and telling us about their concerns. So these locations that you've identified today in your question sort of fall into some of that. They feel least safe, and the sort of interactive map part of this listening exercise enabled people to tell us exactly where in the borough that they were feeling unsafe. So along with this information, an action plan will be put together and be put into place. And this will be including the outlines of the first set of actions to this plan, which will undertake to improve levels of safety for women in the borough in response to this feedback. We will be bringing the action plan in coming months, but the Safer Ealing is a key priority for this council. So in addition to this, I can also tell you that Churchfield Recreation Ground and Brent Valley Park, so often referred to as the Bunny Park, has been part of a currently going through a tasking for council-funded Parks ASB patrol. So these will be delivered by Park Guard, and they have identified the problems that you raised here. So there will be people dealing with that. They've recently also assisted the police in arresting 3 individuals for possession with intent to supply in this locality. So that's why we've made sure that there'll be people there who can deal with that. So we'll work with the police and partnership organisations in tackling the antisocial behaviour, and we're working to expand the preventative work to deter people from all sorts of ASB and create a safer borough for everybody. So to assist the police, I would ask everybody to actually interact better with their ways that we can report things that have happened. So please do go onto their safer streets and let them know when something has happened, or if you feel unsafe, where it has happened in the borough, because we get that information and we can help people using that data. Also use 101 if it's not anything that's emergent, and 999, of course, you know about. Also online, for people who don't want to wait on the telephone, it's really important that you report everything that happens, even though you might think it's not very serious. And so, yeah, with that, thank you.
It's really nice to hear the new measures you've been taken. I also wonder if there's any measures on the causes of crime, maybe enhanced school teaching, or maybe, I think ultimately the influence from family to prevent crime, to teach us always be kind to others, and also sometimes yoga and meditation. I don't know. Have you ever thinking that way?
So yes, there's quite an extensive program related to the education, particularly the education of young men and how they behave around women, which is currently sort of being worked out as to how we can best roll that out into schools. And general well-being, I think, also helps people be more mindful, more kind around each other. So those works are in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Richard Ward to ask his question to Councillor Dedry Costigan, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for the Climate Action?
Hi, my name is Richard.
You have only 3 minutes. Please.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask this question. I'm a local resident and a local businessman, and this question particularly relates to Grove Mews and School Streets, where my business is located. Can the council please consider allowing businesses located on a school street to be able to apply for a permit to drive on the school street at operational times, regardless of where the vehicle is registered?
Thank you very much for the question regarding the school streets. And I think particularly you're asking for businesses to allow cars belonging to that business to go down the school street, even if they're not registered at that business address. That's my understanding of the question. So just to say that one of the aims of the school street scheme, it's really part of our fight against air pollution in the borough. So we're trying to cut down on air pollution, and particularly cut down on air pollution around our schools, so that our children and young people don't have to walk through that in the morning. But also, you know, another big part of it is safety. So again, to allow kids to be able to walk, scoot, run to school without having to negotiate or dodge cars as they walk down the road. So we need to achieve both of those. We need to actually significantly reduce the number of motor vehicles going down the roads of those school streets. So the point is really not to have lots and lots of exemptions that would kind of not really make it worthwhile. And you'd have, again, the safety concerns with children not realizing that there was still some cars allowed down the road and not others. And again, and also, of course, there would be the contribution to air pollution. So in order to kind of create that safer, cleaner environment and encourage more walking and cycling, we have only a limited number of exemptions. However, I would say that school streets are only in operation early in the morning at school drop-off, and again in the afternoon when the kids are being collected. So we couldn't achieve the outcomes of this if we didn't have a significant number of, if we had a significant number rather of motor vehicles that were granted an exemption to the school streets restriction. So we have to manage the exemptions only for cases that are really necessary. So permits are provided for specific categories of vehicle, and that's all outlined on the council website and in the traffic management order. Now, business owners can apply for a permit if they have vehicles that are registered to their business and they need for the business. So that is an exemption that is applied, but it's not a wider exemption than that, I'm afraid. So employees, including staff at schools, they're not exempt either. And I know what many schools in the borough have done is the school staff have just come in that little bit earlier, because if you come in 15 minutes earlier, then you miss the school street, and you know, you don't get fined, and also you don't contribute to making it unsafe for kids and adding to the air pollution at that drop-off time. Most delivery drivers, I think, you know, will have a trolley. So if you can't get right to the business, you can use the trolley to deliver. But like I say, actually business cars that are registered to the business can have an exemption. Thanks.
Yes,
Okay,
you can ask you.
I appreciate what you said. Certainly living on that street, I know most of the problem with traffic was parents dropping their kids off at school, which has thankfully now stopped. I was a parent at that school myself and always walked my kids to school. But I just would appeal to you really and appreciate these are very difficult times for business. And this isn't about delivery drivers. It's about us very rarely, because I actually walk to work. Sometimes we need to drive and we won't know when that is. And we might have stuff with us because we present things to clients and we aren't able to sometimes take public transport. And at those times we might need to get back for a meeting, and it can be quite stressful then knowing that you can't actually enter the school street and we've got things to take back to the business. So I think the main question is really just there's no option for us to apply for a permit and have a discussion. It's the thing that's actually really frustrating.
Yeah, thank you for the supplementary. I think as I outlined, it is possible to apply for a permit with a vehicle that is registered to the business. So you can do that if you register it to the business. As I say, you know, I'm sure that your business, you know, what you've said is very true, and it would only be something that you would use every now and again. But of course, if we allowed exemptions across the board for all businesses in the area, I'm afraid there's other businesses that would use their exemption much more frequently, potentially every day, and it would undermine the whole point of the school streets. And as I say, and as I think you've said that, you know, you do support, it is about our children and our young people. It's about reducing air pollution, the impact that has on asthma, and on, I think there was 4,000 deaths from air pollution in London last year. We want to try and make a difference on that. I know that it means sometimes we might have to change our travel plans a little bit, think ahead and kind of schedule things slightly differently. But I think that's a price that, you know, is worth paying for the future of those kids.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Can I ask Monica William to ask her question to Councillor Redbridge Costigan, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate Action?
Good evening, everyone. My question, are there any exceptional circumstances whereby a tree, which is currently under tree protection order, can be cut down?
Thank you very much for your question. I think the last time we came across each other was on the election, actually. I think I recognise that you're a former Conservative candidate in the election. I think, sorry, I'm still responding. I think I do recognise you're a former Conservative Party candidate in the election. I imagine you have some Conservative councillors who could probably ask questions on your behalf if you want to ask questions in the future. But in any case, I'll respond to the question right now. Yes, I think in terms of tree protection orders, this is something that you can apply for if you're worried about a tree, in your neighborhood that you think has very strong amenity value. So it's very important to the local community. So you can apply to the council to have a tree protection order put on that tree. And there are exemptions to tree protection orders. So for example, if you're a homeowner and there's a tree protection order on a private tree, you can still do works on it if that tree is dangerous or dying or dead. So you are able to still do that. But if there's any particular tree that you're worried about, I'm happy to have a chat about it offline or, through the auspices of the Conservative group that I'm sure you're very closely working with.
Have you got any supplementary question to ask her?
Yes, I do. Thank you for reminding me about the Conservative Party. I'm today as a public member. Thank you. This is my right, so I would also be here. Given Labour's manifesto pledge to rewild, recycle and regrow, would the portfolio holder not find that inconsistent with removal of a large area of woodland?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the end, but I think that you said woodland. So thank you for the supplementary question. And I'm sorry if I had to remind you of the Conservative Party. It may well be something that, yes, is upsetting to consider and that you want to forget and put into history. And I think I can assure you, as I'm sure you will have read our manifesto, I know that you ran in Walpole Ward, I believe, and the people of Walpole Ward came out on the day and they voted for our manifesto, which included a commitment to 50,000 new trees in the borough. So those new trees are going to be planting over the next 4 years. We're putting together a plan. I think actually this tree planting plan that we've got is one of the biggest in London. So it's a massive undertaking and we're going to increase our tree canopy in the borough to 25% over the next few years. So thank you very much for allowing me to tell my comrades in the chamber about that tonight. It's really helpful. And if there's any particular tree that you are concerned about, I reiterate my offer. Do please just drop me a line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So we go on item number 8. 30 minutes is the total allowed for the questions. Any response to the question must not exceed 3 minutes. Supplementary question must relate to the original question or from the answer given. The first is Councillor Jammu to Councillor Manro, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question to Councillor Manro. Can the Cabinet member provide an update on the progress of the work on the Southall reset? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chairman. At our most recent meeting, Cabinet pressed the Southall reset button to kickstart a new approach to community-led development in Southall. Southall has experienced significant changes over the past decade, primarily due to the large-scale investment in residential development. But we know this has created significant challenges for local people. The pandemic has hit the community hard, with residents in Southall having had the highest rate of furlough in the country. And now the cost of living crisis has the potential to be disastrous for many residents. This Labour administration has a new vision and ambition for Southall, which puts decent living incomes and supporting local businesses to thrive at the centre. We know that Southall has a great potential to achieve more in bringing in new jobs and growing the local economy as a destination for visitors and shoppers from across London, the UK, and the world. We will embed the principles of community engagement and have committed to bringing forward a community-led regeneration charter that sets out clear rights for residents to shape and control the decisions being taken in their communities on housing and employment. Finally, we have committed to investing nearly £9 million in active travel in Southall and supporting Let's Go Southall's amazing social movement to distribute 10,000 bikes to local people. This, in addition to the new Wellbeing Way project, which was launched yesterday, will invest nearly £1 million in improving the tow path for people walking, cycling, running, and scooting. We know we need to reset our relationship with the local community, and this program sets out how we will do that. Officers are now putting in place the internal governance and decision-making structures to implement and deliver the Southall reset. This agreement will then enable the council to quickly set up external stakeholder engagement and delivery framework to ensure partners, including the GLA and TfL, release the funding for delivery to ensure that South community at the very heart of the decision-making process going forward.
Thank you. Does anyone from the Labour group have a supplementary questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Can the cabinet member provide an update on work being done in Southall?
Thank you. A priority of the new administration is to make sure that we're bringing good jobs back to Southall and that we are developing alongside that all the community infrastructure that's needed. That's why I'm thrilled to attend the recent reopening of Southall Manor House, which has sat empty for far too long. We have partnered with Meanwhile Space on an innovative project to provide affordable workspace and facilities for community organizations and local businesses, and to bring this iconic Grade 2 listed building back into public use. We also showed the best of Southall business community at the first Business Expo with more than 300 people and 30 exhibitors for the day of networking and inspiration at the Manor House. This demonstrates our renewed commitment to support and invest in the area by providing opportunities for the local community to come together and be part of shaping and supporting Southall's economic future. Finally, through the local plan process, we will be maximizing opportunities for businesses to grow, meeting the needs of local people and taking advantage of Southall's prime location, as well as delivering vital community infrastructure. We know there's a lot of work to do with the community to make Southall the best it can be, and pressing the reset button at the start of the relationship and a new vision.
Thank you. Can I Councillor Board to Jasveer Anand, please? Councillor Board, yes, give the answer to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the new town forums be as well as or instead of ward forums?
Thank you, Councillor Board, for your question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, when Ealing Labour were elected in May, we pledged to establish 7 new town forums that will be an open, transparent and inclusive vehicle for our local communities and, of course, our stakeholders to have a greater say on what matters to them in their town. Madam Mayor, the new town forums will replace ward forums, and we are determined to ensure They are led by the community for the community. Madam Mayor, the town forums will also enable local communities to have more power to set the spending priorities for their local area from the 2 million raised from the developer tax. That is the proportion of the community infrastructure levy that can be spent by communities on what they want. And that will facilitate community initiatives and microfinancing. The SIL scheme will be adopted later in this administration. And in advance of this, initial funding will be set aside for projects to be developed by the town forums, and an ICMD report to Cabinet in September will set out how this funding will be allocated. And Madam Mayor, later on in the year, we will bring forward governance proposals, and ward councillors, of course, will be consulted extensively in how town forums will work for our local people. Madam Mayor, this is part of our new approach to engagement in Ealing, which will help us to create a two-way dialogue between the council and the local people, with a council that truly listens and values what our residents tell us they want and what they need. That's why, Madam Mayor, in our manifesto, and as you will all hear later on in the council plan, we've also pledged to introduce a community charter setting out residents' rights, what can rightly be expected from the council in being open, inclusive, and transparent in everything that we do. This means handing over power to communities and supporting residents to come together to take the mutual ownership and management of the public assets we all love, sustaining them well into the future.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The portfolio holder mentioned the manifesto twice. So why was the axing of ward forums not stated in the Labour manifesto? And does the portfolio holder think there is a risk of resident engagement dropping to the lamentably low levels achieved by the old area committees once the form of engagement is no longer local to a ward?
Madam Mayor, I don't think Councillor Ball listened to my lengthy response, but I'm happy to repeat what I have said, Councillor Ball. I have a lot of time for Councillor Ball, Madam Mayor, but I think sometimes he switches off, and I think that's what he's done today.
Repeat it again.
I'll just like to repeat a few things. After the ward forums were suspended during the pandemic, we took the opportunity, Madam Mayor, to review our approach to ensure that we were open, inclusive, transparent, as well as a community-led and empowered. And that is all mentioned in our manifesto. So I don't know where Councillor Ball has missed that. So the old model didn't always achieve this, as supporting the 23 separate ward forums, each meeting twice a year, while also seeing through multiple small projects from feasibility study to delivery was very labor intensive. So while the budget for each ward is relatively small, collectively it adds up to a very significant investment. As the focus at a ward level is no small scale projects, there's been little scope to influence more strategic mainstream thinking and decision making. Madam Mayor, consolidating budgets to support the 7-town makes the direct link to the council's regeneration strategy, and also anticipating the role of the forums will play in determining how the funding from the SIL is to be spent, ensuring they are strategic players in shaping the 7 towns. I hope, Councillor Ball, you were listening this time.
Thank you, Jaswirananda. Thank you. Next is a Councillor Young to Councillor Donnelly, please. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What services can currently be accessed in person at the Customer Service Centre in Percival House?
Thank you, Councillor Young. Currently, services that can be accessed in person from the customer service centre at Percival House by appointment are the Ealing registration service, social care, and access to archived planning documents. We know that people don't want to have to travel to Percival House for everything. It's our priority to ensure that our services are convenient and responsive for all residents. For some, that means ensuring that our services are accessible online. For other residents, having the opportunity to discuss a problem face-to-face with an advisor is the best way to resolve an issue. When we were elected in May, we pledged to launch new community hubs located within our 7 towns, supporting residents to access council services at a one-stop shop place that can support those most impacted by the Tory cost of living crisis with wraparound support. And we're already delivering. The customer services and community engagement teams have been piloting projects to place advisors in libraries in Ealing, Northolt, Acton and Southall. So far, around 500 residents have spoken to our advisors, which has driven football into libraries and meant people have avoided unnecessary journeys to Ealing Broadway. We want to make sure all our residents across all 7 towns have convenient nearby access to advice, not just residents of Central Ealing. That will truly demonstrate our commitment to equality, openness and inclusion.
Thank you. Does anyone from the Conservative group have a supplementary question?
Does the portfolio holder think that this restricted service at Percival House is acceptable, given that not everybody wants to go to the library to get services? What is he doing to bring the customer service centre back into full operation?
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor, if the answer I gave wasn't the answer you were expecting. We are in the process of broadening and deepening our provision of face-to-face support, not narrowing it. It won't simply be based at Percival House. Certainly, everybody is aware that the pandemic had an immediate and dramatic impact on the nature of the support that we gave. In reintroducing face-to-face support, we're seeking to do it in the way which best suits the greatest number of our residents, particularly those in greatest need. And I would hope that he and his party at some point down the line will come to realise that's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed to Councillor to Costigan, please. Can you ask a question, Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you provide an update on progress on the air quality strategy?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question on the important issue of air quality. I think, as I mentioned in my answer to the public question that we had earlier, air quality and air pollution specifically, I mean, that's what the issue is. It's air pollution. That is, a really significant issue for London. And in, I think it was 2019 alone, 4,000 deaths in London could be attributed to the impact of air pollution. So it is a big, big problem that we have to address. And I'm glad to say that it is something that we have made a priority for the council as part of our direction now of making climate action one of our top 3 priorities. So air pollution is very much part of that focus on taking climate action. So what we've been doing is we've been engaging with residents over the last few months to understand their priorities when it comes to tackling air pollution. And we're looking as well for ideas they have, what they think and would be the best ways to try and combat this issue in the borough. So some of the solutions could be, to enable walking and cycling, went to visit Let's Go Southall, and I've seen Let's Go Southall twice in the last 7 days. So, that's a great initiative we're already doing in this area, but also to try and take, dirty polluting cars off the road, and of course, greening our borough. I mentioned earlier about our huge commitment to 50,000 new trees. So all of those are the kind of ideas that we're hoping that residents will have come back with. And we've asked people, what they felt has worked so far and what they felt hasn't, because we want to learn as well from residents from what hasn't worked, because we need to take residents with us in making changes that may well have an impact on all of our lives. Again, we heard earlier from the gentleman in the school streets, we do have to sometimes, if we want to actually make an impact on climate and on air pollution, we sometimes will have to go slightly out of our way and do things a little bit differently than we used to. So we're asking residents to come with us on that important journey. We had a very good response to the consultation. So that I think shows how important this is to residents. We had over 1,250 responses to the survey, and then we held some virtual focus groups where we spoke to about 100 residents in the virtual focus groups. So that initial engagement exercise has informed now what we're putting together a draft air quality strategy with an action plan. So this is in the final stage of preparation. So once we've got that final draft version, we'll be looking for comments then through a public consultation again with residents, and that will go out to residents in September. And this will, I think, come up with a great series of actions that we can all work on together as a community.
Oh, I don't know what's happened. Does anyone from the Labour group have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do.
Where are you?
Thank you for that. Can the portfolio holder also provide an update on air quality monitoring in schools to protect the most vulnerable? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And it's great to see so many new councillors asking questions tonight. That's fantastic. But in terms of your question, Councillor, so actually some brilliant news to announce over the last couple of weeks, and that is that we are investing almost £250,000 on air quality around our schools. So that will include actually having air quality monitoring in schools so that we're actually able to see what the impact is on those schools. And we'll also be using it to do educational programs in schools to again look at reducing car use in school drop-off, all of the other actions that we can take that we can actually get young people involved in too, because we've got to start this, now at a very young age. We've got to teach kids, right from the start of their school days, how important taking climate action and tackling air pollution is. So this investment that we're making, I think it will be really welcomed. I hope it'll also be welcomed by both the Liberal Democrat group and by the Conservative group, because I do recall before the election, both myself, Councillor Steed and Councillor Gallant, were in a Ealing Transitions hustings where we were asked precisely this question. And I did commit at that time that we would do air quality monitoring in our schools. And I'm delighted we're now delivering on that. But I did also on that night recall that both of the opposition parties did also back that commitment. And so I'm hoping that you're going to back this great work that we're doing. So I'm delighted that in only the first few months of the administration, something that I promised in a hustings event we would do, we are doing. Thank you.
Councillor Steed to Councillor Blake, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Gary. As cases of the new COVID-19 variant increase and with additional hospital admissions, has the council considered introducing 3 COVID test kits as Liberal Democrat-run Portsmouth City Council have done?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Steed. A slight sense of deja vu, because I think we had this exact conversation at Health Scrutiny last month, but here we go. COVID is still very much with us. In London last week, the daily number of people testing positive was about 17,000. But we know, of course, because of the government taking away free testing, that that's just a fraction of the whole picture. And that kind of rise in cases does, of course, impact on staff sickness. And last week, we saw the NHS declare a black alert because it couldn't cope with demand on it at that point. A benchmarking exercise was undertaken at a North West London level to investigate the viability of offering free universal testing. And at the sub-regional level, the decision was not to take this forward in the absence of any support from central government. We are, of course, limited by resource. And if I can give Councillor Steed some advice, if they want to be taken seriously as the official opposition, they need to address that reality. Our answer is to focus the resource we have on the most vulnerable residents and on the communities most affected by COVID. Since April the 1st, we've made surplus testing kits from the Universal Testing Programme available to council staff working with vulnerable residents to ensure we don't put those residents at risk. And 2 weeks ago at Cabinet, we invested an additional £400,000 into tackling health inequalities in the borough, where life expectancy is shorter in Southall than it is in his ward in Southfield. We continue to promote COVID vaccination, engaging with communities, understanding their hesitancy, and using this work to tailor the vaccine offer to protect people better. The government cut funding for community vaccine champions, but again, that's where we can make a real difference, and that's where we've invested another £90,000 a year to support that important work.
Thank you. Does anyone from the Liberal Democrats group have a supplementary question?
I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Thank you for Councillor Blacker's response. I'll refrain from taking his advice if he doesn't mind. But in the meantime, the council plan in its majesty includes lots of aspirations, which the Liberal Democrat group will agree with many of them. It includes fighting health inequality. It also includes a large section on healthy lives. And I just wonder where those particular aspirations match the council's lack of concern, seemingly, for the citizens of the borough of Ealing.
I'm slightly concerned, Madam Mayor, given that I've said how much work we are doing to protect the citizens of our borough, investing in £400,000 in health inequalities, another £90,000 in vaccine champions that the government decided not to fund for us, that I could possibly not care about the residents of the borough. Is exactly the portfolio that I have is healthy lives for all, and that's what I shall deliver through the corporate plan, the council plan, as he mentions.
Thank you. Councillor Sidhu, to Councillor Mahfouz, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the Cabinet member provide an update on how the council is supporting residents during the cost of living crisis?
Thank you, Councillor Sidhu. Madam Mayor, in the face of 40-year high inflation rates, a fumbling government and an intervention package that barely scratched the surface in providing families with real viable financial support, we on this side are taking a stand on their side of residents, supporting residents in the face of this Conservative caused crisis. We stand out from other local councils. Our council tax support scheme is amongst the most progressive in the country. And alongside this, our clearly focused household support fund supports those who are on free school meals and those on benefits with children under 5 to get through those really difficult school holiday periods. We have issued nearly 15,000 supermarket vouchers, and we're not stopping there. This autumn, we will utilise look to fund further to ensure pensioners receive a one-off payment via the post office of over £100, helping them with rising costs and dramatic jumps in the cost of living. To date, over 53,000 residents have received their £150 payments as part of their energy rebate scheme. That's over 55% of those who are eligible. Applications are still coming through, and we're continuing to promote those opportunities. We've also funded and launched, as we've heard for Councillor Donnelly, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 community hubs, providing support in the heart of our communities, and dedicated customers' phone lines remain open to support any resident in filling out application forms, answering any questions and making sure that we physically provide support amongst this cost of living crisis. We're doing all that we can in the face of rising inflation, escalating energy costs and unsustainable price increases. But we know that more needs to be done. Over a decade of Tory, and let's not forget, Lib Dem austerity has hacked away at people's social security and has left families literally on the breadline. But at Ealing Labour, we want to see people not just survive, but to thrive. Alongside our general support packages and schemes, we continue to campaign to get the government to do more, acknowledge the challenges and demand action in the face of this crisis.
Thank you. Does anyone from the Labour group have a supplementary questions, Councillor?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Mahfouz, have either of the Conservative Party leadership candidates outlined their plans on how they will help councils to tackle the cost of living crisis?
In short, anyone who was subjected to the painful battle of the lightweights last night will have seen that the answer is a staggering but also incredibly sad no. We are all aware that the government are more than happy to turn a blind eye to the cost of living crisis that's affecting millions of families across the country. For months, they've argued against a windfall tax on energy giants that we actually wrote to them to say that they should be doing, and put off providing any kind of support until, I don't know, something happened. I can't remember. What was it? Oh, Partygate, that was it. Only then did the government, when they were finally exposed for blatantly flouting lockdown and the rules that they'd implemented, did they offer a belated and minuscule cost of living package. So why should we have any faith in two of the remaining candidates that have having any proposals or substantial plans to help people in the face of this crisis? They've been a part of the problem. On the one hand, you have Truss's claims to tackle the crisis that has economists calling her unclear measures self-defeating and will further increase crippling inflation. On the other hand, you literally have the architect of this crisis, Sunak, as the richest member of the House of Commons, showing how out of touch he is by focusing on insulating homes rather than helping people actually afford to heat them in the first place. These are problems that the government, time and time again, turn a blind eye to, Madam Mayor. The truth is that neither candidate provide a clear or stable plan on how they will help councils tackle this crisis. But in stark contrast, Madam Mayor, as Ealing Labour, as you've heard, we will continue to be on the side of our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Niger to Councillor Donald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the Cabinet member provide an update on how the government is supporting local councils to provide services to residents amidst the current inflation crisis?
Thank you, Councillor Niger. Well, colleagues will have heard me both before and after the election say again and again, we're facing, as Councillor Mahfouz was just intimating, unprecedented colliding crises of Brexit, COVID, inflation, the energy crisis, the out of control cost of living. And these are all clearly hitting our residents hard, and they're stretching council budgets to the limit. We're asked to do more with less, which becomes worth less with the passage of time and the impact of inflation. It's clear, as Councillor Mahfouz has said, that the Tory government has no answer. The levelling up agenda means levelling down for local government in general and for local government in London in particular. The Consumer Prices Index rose 9.4% in the 12 months to June, up from 9.1% in May. And you've virtually got to be as old as me to remember those sorts of figures from the past. In all recent times under Conservative governments, interestingly enough. London councils has warned of £400 million of additional budget pressures on boroughs in London as a result of skyrocketing inflation, and vital local services and economic recovery will be jeopardised without immediate extra investment and certainty over future funding. Another theme that colleagues will have heard me talk about before. Clearly, it's not just London. The Cross-Party National Local Government Association said local services that were seemingly secure just 3 months ago are now at risk of closure or of cuts. And we're trying to scramble together an unforeseen £2.4 billion rise in our costs. I don't know what Alexa said, but although we had briefly some positive signs as the former Secretary of State for the Department of Housing, Levelling Up and Communities, Michael Gove, I don't know if you remember him, said the government would seek to move towards 2-year financial settlements for local government. Shortly after that speech, he was unceremoniously removed from his position. It's never been more clear the councils need certainty over in-year support and will continue to campaign for reliable and secure funding from government so we can always be sure of being there when residents need it.
Thank you. Thank you. Just the last one. Okay. Does anybody from the Labour group have a supplementary questions?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Could I please ask the portfolio holder, how is Ealing Council ensuring resilience and a continued ability to deliver services for residents?
Thank you, Councillor Rice. I'm glad you asked. Isn't it fortunate that before the election, we took the prudent decision as an administration to increase our reserves, a move which colleagues who were in the room that night will recall was opposed by both of the parties opposite. Although at Cabinet last week, Councillor Busuttil, his debut in his new role, appeared to indicate that he was concerned that our reserves weren't high enough, which is cognitive dissonance is a wonderful thing. But we're continuing to review how we deliver our services for residents to ensure we're delivering maximum value for money. This includes bringing forward our social value policy, setting out how we can maximise the benefits to residents of our procurement activities. We know that a race to the bottom for contracts doesn't work for local people, and in the end, doesn't work for councils either. That's why we're working with our suppliers to ensure that each and every contract delivers decent living incomes for local people, tackles the climate crisis, and reduces inequality.
Time, please.
I'll stop there.
Thank you. So we'll go on item 9, council plans. I will ask Councillor Costigan, please. You have 7 minutes. Try to finish within 7 minutes.
Sorry, Councillor, before you start, we have a list of 25 speakers, so please stick to the timings you have, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to propose this report on behalf of the leader, Councillor Mason, who I'm afraid has COVID tonight, to agree a council plan that will build a new economy in Ealing and a new relationship with residents. On the 5th of May, the people of Ealing had a once in every 4 years chance to decide their vision for this council. Ealing Labour put forward a set of bold pledges, and residents in Ealing voted for this bold vision in their droves. 59 Labour councillors elected, the highest ever, a record for any political party in Ealing. Now, I know some political parties fight elections on a manifesto, but once they get elected, it all goes out the window. It's not so long ago that the current incumbent in number 10 promised hordes of nurses and new hospitals, but instead we have crumbling hospitals and tens of thousands of vacancies for nurses and doctors in our NHS. But Ealing Labour is different, and tonight is about showing the people of Ealing that we are serious about delivering on the promises we made on the doorstep. This council plan takes the pledges our residents voted for and puts them at the heart of the council strategy for the next 4 years. That's true democracy. That's people power. I want to thank everyone who's been involved in drafting the council plan. Thank you to residents who put their trust in us once again and have been clear about what needed to change. Thank you to the Labour group, who have given their creativity, ideas and vision to our manifesto pledges. And of course to Councillor Mason, who led us on this manifesto. And thank you to officers who have worked with members to map out how we will deliver over the next 4 years. The mission of Ealing's new administration outlined in the council plan is simple. We want to ensure every family has a decent living income and can afford a genuinely affordable home, that everyone can live a long, happy and healthy life in thriving communities full of pride and identity in our 7 towns, where every child can achieve their dreams and isn't held back by inequality, where we can do our bit to tackle the climate crisis by building a greener, more sustainable and fairer Ealing for the future. Our council plan has been developed against the background of local and global challenges. The COVID pandemic hit Ealing hard, with our most vulnerable communities facing the most devastating consequences. Brexit has affected our business community, with the Conservative government's dishonest deal leaving our industries without the opportunities they need to thrive. As we saw with the wildfires in Northolt and Hayes last week, the climate crisis and its consequences are starting to feel more and more real. If that wasn't enough, growing inflation and the cost of living crisis is now hitting ordinary people's pockets. These challenges are unprecedented. They require a massive programme of action on a national level. But instead, we have a zombie government that's given up on governing, and a Prime Minister only concerned with dressing up as action man for the cameras. And who might replace him? The Tory faithful get to decide between 2 continuity candidates, both part of Johnson's failed administration, both peddling makey-uppy economics in a desperate attempt to get the top job. And both, of course, pretending that the state of the country after 12 years of Tory rule has nothing to do with them. And I'm sorry to say, I can't let the Lib Dems off the hook for that either, I'm afraid. So it's clearer than ever that only Labour will deliver what the country needs. The last election has shown us that residents in Ealing overwhelmingly agree, and I'm so grateful that they put their trust in Ealing Labour once again. As Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate Action, I meet residents, communities and businesses from across our borough. And this has made me even more convinced that despite the challenges we face, there are so many opportunities. Ealing has 7 vibrant towns, including my local town of Northolt, and a local economy that is industrious, creative and innovative. I was just at Southall Expo last week, and that was marvellous to see that innovation in Southall. In a city growing bigger and more complex each day, I'm proud that people in Ealing continue to foster a powerful community spirit and a resilience that will withstand even the toughest of challenges. We saw this during COVID-19 when communities came together, and we saw it again during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Our council plan will use this people power to help Ealing change for the better by building a new economy and a new relationship with residents. A relationship where we listen to residents, like we did with our air quality consultation, our travel in Ealing consultation, and our work on the local plan through Shaping Ealing. Because our council plan is a partnership with our residents. It's a plan they agreed at the ballot box, and we will continue to go back to residents as we develop our approach on some of the knottiest issues. Madam Mayor, as this plan outlines, we will bring 10,000 good, well-paid jobs to the borough. We'll plant 50,000 trees, create 10 new parks, and rewild 800,000 square metres. We'll tackle the cost of living crisis and keep council tax low. We'll create an Ealing that works for everyone by putting residents in the driving seat of growth. And we'll ensure every child in Ealing continues to have access to good and sustainable schools in their local community. We will support and empower communities and give residents the facilities and space to thrive. We'll fix social care in the borough and help our most vulnerable residents to get the care they need in their own home. We'll build 4,000 genuinely affordable homes, and we'll invest £13 million into fighting crime and antisocial behaviour. Our council plan sets out how we will achieve these goals and how we will meet these ambitious commitments. It delivers on the trust residents put in Labour and in our manifesto pledges on the 5th of May. Madam Mayor, I am delighted to propose this council plan.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kingston.
Madam Mayor, it's my honour to second the motion.
It's a mere speech, yeah.
Well, it's my bit speech. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm humbled to be elected to serve my home ward of Northfield, even though I may have taken the scenic route to get here. I'd also like to say a couple of words about the outgoing councillors. Firstly, to my friend Faye Block. If anyone has a pleasure to go canvassing in Northfield with Faye, you will know you can barely walk 50 yards without meeting somebody Faye knows. She's firmly rooted in our community, and I'd like to see her back in this chamber someday. Secondly, to David Milliken. David is a political opponent, not an enemy. Despite living in times of polarised politics, we find some common ground. Our passion to deliver for what is best for Northfield residents, and also our belief that Britain is better off served within the European Union. And I cannot fail to recognise how hard he's worked for Northfield residents. Finally, to another friend, Northfield resident and former Mayor of Ealing, Simon Woodruff, for the support and guidance he gave me over the years, and his belief that Labour can win all 3 Northfield seats, which of course we did. Those who know me well will know I'm currently working on a contract at one of London's most iconic hotels, where people can pay up to £16,000 for a night's stay. However, as I walk down the Strand to work, merely a few yards from the hotel, I see the other side of society. People, and we must remember they are people, people sleeping rough, many of whom have learning difficulties, mental health problems, addictions, some who've served our country and have been left behind by society. Whilst I'm not politically naive enough to believe the council plan will eradicate these problems, there's much in the plan to help us. I would like to draw attention to the 15 million to help people with drug and alcohol addiction with community-based support, including training local apprentices as recovery workers. Success in the jobs market is key in preventing homelessness. I'm very pleased the plan proposes to support 2,000 of Ealing's most vulnerable residents with the toughest barriers to employment to get good quality work and regain their independence. The council will work to end the need for families who face eviction to stay in B&B accommodation and invest 20 million in 100 new safe and secure places to stay. Whilst these proposals are essential for the most vulnerable society, there is plenty in the plan for us all to enjoy. On a personal level, I'm looking forward to seeing 800,000 square metres being rewilded. But on a more important note, I hope this will become a community asset where younger residents can play and discover nature. As a rookie councillor, I'm thinking about investing in a bike so I can get round the ward a bit quicker, see what's going on, look for the potholes before the emails come to me. And I was pleased to hear the council will be investing 150 new bike hangers, costing users only 70p a month. However, I did read the bike hire funding is causing some confusion for the Lib Dems. It was a council investment, not a TfL investment. Seems quite clear to me. Then the penny dropped why they didn't understand it. We need to communicate differently with the Lib Dem opposition to the way we did with the Tories. It's clear why they didn't understand it. We haven't done a bar chart. On that note, I urge you to support the motion.
Councillor Milton, 7 minutes, please. 6, sorry, 6.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me first of all thank Councillor Kingston for his remarks, even his slightly cheeky ones. In my opening remarks, I'd just like to say that the corporate plan has more proposals than the last couple of iterations that I've seen, which is welcomed. It gives more opportunity to see where things need to be improved and criticised on, where details are needed. Looking at this in terms of the climate action, which forms quite a large section of this manifesto and plan, this started in 2019 with the Lib Dem motion that Councillor Ball moved relating to the climate emergency. But I think one of the things this council needs to do stronger relates to London. And so the Mayor of London isn't very strong when it comes to zero carbon buildings. This council allows developers to build without giving very much money to issue. That would generate far more money for this borough, and we'd hopefully not have buildings that are causing environmental harms. And although I refer to this at Cabinet, and it does relate to the previous speech just a few moments ago, there are many issues with the Minister for Transport and the Mayor of London and those spats which have gone on for the past couple of years. What we want, and I think the portfolio holder wants this as well, a long-term funding agreement. Without it, this managed decline gives a real risk that some of the transport-related proposals will not happen, will be implemented late or on a smaller scale. And that is regrettable. I think the portfolio holder needs to look at all of the priorities, and there are a large set of them here in the document, to say if funding is reduced because of the problems that I've outlined, which ones are your true top 2 or 3 priorities? Because if you're being open and transparent, you should look at those first. The document also refers to protecting Ealing's diversity. I don't think you can honestly say, with your hand on your heart, that the endangered skylarks on Warren Farm will have an improved outcome if any type of sporting facility is there. And this is coming from someone who plays cricket and has played cricket for 15 years. A sporting facility will mean these particular species will be lost and will never come back. And that will be totally regrettable. If we look at the inclusive economy, which is also another important section, I feel, much of these proposals to help the digitally excluded are welcomed and are needed, and we've supported many of those over the time. But more work is needed to ensure that the website is compliant for those with sight issues. I, for example, most councillors don't realise I'm partially sighted in my right eye, so it's difficult for me to see sometimes. A review found at a similar time when this happened that 99% of the pages of Ealing Council's website were not compliant for those who have visual issues. And so we need to sometimes think about how we treat people who use the internet as well. IE5 looks at the review of the council tax support scheme, which I think Councillor Mahfouz mentioned. He will remember probably 5 or 6 years ago when there was a review, and this was a sad day when that review took place, because that 100% became 90%, 10% of the amount of money that what did go to residents was taken back from those tenants, only after a Lib Dem calling. Did you review that? A year after that? And that was welcomed, but I hope that we can get from the wording here to make sure we don't see any of that in the future. You've pledged to review, but a review can also be a bad thing, not also a positive thing. So I think you need to look at that and make sure you are actually standing up for residents, especially those who have suffered and are suffering. On thriving communities, we've heard about the town centres, and it is good that more money is coming forward to town centres. However, I feel, and I know Councillor Ball has mentioned this, the wards need a guarantee that they will see some of this money. There is a danger, as in the area committees, that 1 or 2 wards get the vast bulk and the rest don't. And we need to make sure that the cutting of ward forums, which is a bad thing, and doesn't see a fall of engagement. We also look at some of the issues with the great work that voluntary and community bodies have done. Recently, I attended a summit and there was a number of Labour councillors there. I don't think there was a Conservative councillor on that particular day, but the feedback was very clear. There were 2 bits of feedback. One was that there needs to be more face-to-face activities, and hopefully the hubs and the work that we've done before, saying that we need to open up as many services as quickly as possible in a safe way, can be done. And if these hubs work, that is great. But I do remember the days 10 years or more ago where hubs or similar were opened and then closed at a later date for financial reasons. And we need to make sure we don't fall into that trap. And then on the second point about partnerships, there are many food banks that sadly have set up and operate around the borough, and they do similar jobs to each other. We need to make sure that we work stronger with those council, with those partners, to make sure that they don't do each other's jobs, and therefore there are fewer people who actually serve by those good volunteers. So the council needs to take a much more strong line. So I'll end there and just say that acting ward forums is totally regrettable, and hopefully the council can make a change to that policy in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Conti, please, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first, I just want to congratulate Councillor Kingston on his maiden speech. The aspirations of tackling crime, inequality, climate action, healthy lives are all incredibly important. And I don't think there can be any dispute that these shouldn't be the priorities of Ealing Council. I think looking at the report, I guess the deliverables in the first year, are they ambitious enough? There's a lot of vague commitments in the first year. The report talks about listening, and I know many residents across the borough don't feel listened to. And even though they have been re-elected, they shouldn't underestimate the strength of feeling amongst many residents on this. Many feel that even though when they are consulted, they don't feel their views are meaningfully taken on board. For example, the residents outside this evening demonstrating to save Southall Young Adult Centre on Parkview Road, I would say probably don't feel listened to. Even this evening, we heard about how ward forums are being replaced and amalgamated to town forums, distancing decision-making away from local people and making it less likely that small local community projects are delivered. I know Councillor Anand threw the words around about transparency and openness and repeated them, but widening the gap from the wards to towns will do the opposite to that and will close down local engagement. Many feel that often the administration pays lip service, most notably on tall buildings. The report talks about getting tough on developers in regards to tall buildings. But ever since January's new guidance on tall buildings that was announced with much pre-election fanfare, has there actually been any tangible change? Tall buildings continue to be approved around the borough against the wishes of local people. Just last week, a high-rise development in Hanger Hill was voted for by Lib Dem and Labour councillors against the wishes of local residents. Given the word consult or consultation comes up 13 times in the report, I hope these end up being meaningful consultations whose outcomes are delivered and they're not just means to kick things into the long grass. Gurnell is a prime example. What does the report outline? It outlines another feasibility study, a sounding board, which will only then lead to a decision process. Residents want a swimming pool open, and there's nothing here about when spades can be expected in the ground. This long and widening road can lead residents to question whether they will ever see a swimming pool open at Gurnell. On the healthy life sections, there are a number of areas that we welcome, in particular to provide 7-day presence in hospitals to support discharge to assess, in order to help residents get back home, and also other commitments to help support more people in care, with care in their own homes. But vital for people to be cared for at home is high quality home care services. We know that currently 16 providers in Ealing are rated as required improvements by CQC. I know the report states that they will continue to gear commissioning from good and outstanding providers. However, I'm concerned that given the number of providers that don't meet that criteria, whether there will be enough capacity. There is something in the plan about looking at the costs of care with the market, but there isn't anything in the plan about how the council can work with those providers that don't meet the standards to drive up their standards to ensure that universal good provision is provided to people receiving care at home. The other area that isn't mentioned in the report are the scheduled social care reviews that are overdue by more than 18 months, especially for those with learning disabilities. 63% of those residents are waiting for more than 18 months. As I raised at the Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Panel last month, the current rate that this backlog is being cleared is about 2% a month. I hope there is a plan to rapidly speed this up, because especially with our most vulnerable residents, who many can't advocate for themselves, but these reviews are crucial to ensure that they're getting the care that they need. It is welcome in the report that there's £100 million to tackle health inequality over the next 4 years. The report is vague, however, on what that's being spent on and what steps are being taken. So I look forward to seeing the health and wellbeing strategy when it's published. So though there are many aspirations in the plan, there's a lack of concrete actions over the next 12 months. And we hope that many of these aspirations will be delivered. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, please. The maiden speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm incredibly proud to be making my maiden speech today as a newly elected councillor for Pitshanger. I'd like to begin by thanking the residents of Pitshanger for placing their trust in me and my ward colleagues, Councillors Baclini and Nijjar. I'm humbled and hugely grateful for the opportunity to serve Pitshanger residents as part of the largest and most diverse Labour group, ably led by Councillor Peter Mason. And I say to the whole Pitshanger community, whichever way you voted in May's election, I'll work hard for you and I won't let you down. As you wander around the shops in Pitshanger's award-winning High Street, or take a stroll in one of our wonderful parks, you may be forgiven for thinking that you're visiting a paradise. However, as with all wards across the borough, not everyone in Pitshanger is as fortunate as a quick visit to the area might lead you to believe. Poverty and deprivation are prevalent in the ward, and we know that there are approximately 12,500 people out of work across Ealing. It's clear that we need to support people back into work, especially following the pandemic. That's why my first question in this chamber at our last full council was seeking an update on our progress on delivering 10,000 new well-paid jobs for local residents, a manifesto pledge and now a priority in our council plan. And Labour's plans go even further to tackling unemployment and the issues experienced by those working struggling to make ends meet. We will secure 2,000 new diverse apprenticeships, support 2,000 residents with the toughest barriers to employment like disability, establish 4 new community hubs for residents to access services during the Tory cost of living crisis. And why, you might ask? It's because we fundamentally believe in people and the principle that no matter who you are, no matter where you grew up, no matter your sex, no matter your gender, race, or sexual orientation, you have the right to reach your potential. Not taking dramatic action to tackle unemployment and working poverty would inevitably lead to damage to people's mental and physical health. Unfortunately, sadly, something I know all too well from my day job as a head of department at the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Across the UK, men and women in the poorest fifth of our population are twice as likely to be at risk of developing mental health problems as those on an average income. This cycle must be broken, and I look forward to exploring what more can be done as part of my work on the Adult and Health and Adult Social Care Committee. But local people also need a national government that's on their side. Conservative cuts have consequences, and a Labour government alongside our Labour Council would stand up for the people we serve. Labour created our National Health Service, our proudest achievement, and we now lead Labour in government to rescue our NHS. Thank you again to the people of Pitshanger for electing me. I'm looking forward to meeting more of you over the next 4 years. I'll always have your back, and I'll fight for your dreams, hopes, and aspirations. Thank you.
Councillor Hurst, please, the maiden speech.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to keep very strictly to my 3 minutes. It's my honor today.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. It's my honor today to address the council for the first time. I'm grateful to the residents in Ealing Common to put their trust in me and to give me a very clear mandate to represent them here. I'm especially honored because I haven't actually grown up in the UK, but in Germany. And I share that with many of my neighbors who come from the French, Polish, or other European communities. Being part of the opposition is a great responsibility because we are facing a clear, critical kind of times with cost of living crises, with health demands and increasing environmental challenges and more. So demonstrating that we listen to our residents and really respond to their concerns by offering ward surgeries and working closely with our communities will ever become more important. In speaking extensively to my residents, it's quite clear that safety is one of their major concerns. Hearing only kind of yesterday from our local police officers that their resources have been cut over the years, we need to be vigilant in preventing crime wherever that is possible. I hope that some of the investment in the crime prevention goes to lighting, not only in major roads and hotspots, but everywhere in the borough. Protecting valuable existing green spaces, such as Warren Farm and Twyford Avenue, is as important as creating more of them, if not more so. Given the squeeze on budget and the ambitious promises by the Labour Party, I really hope all these plans will actually be delivered in detail. Increasing our recycling rates is really important, but also giving this opportunity to people who live in flats. Given the current political turmoil and the erosion of trust in politicians, which I have heard a lot about, it should be all of our goal to rebuild this trust and confidence here in Ealing. It will take all of our effort, dedication and focus to make the lives of our residents as good as we can make it, to create the Ealing which is safe, clean and green for everybody. I hope this will be a common ground for all of us to work together. This is definitely my intention. And Madam Mayor, may I close by really thanking my Liberal colleagues here today who have helped me in the last few months, especially my fellow councillor in Ealing Common, John Ball, without whose help I would have probably not be standing here today. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gallant, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, the staff and the officers who've helped put this plan together too, because they do an enormous amount of work, which is often not thanked. So looking at the plan, lots of good things, and actually, particularly at the back page of the plan. If you look at the very back page of the plan, I think that reflects some of the new leadership in the council, and you know, there's some very sober thinking there, which is good. Lots of good things, the measures against crime, the measures against inequality, measures against antisocial behavior, those are all welcome as long as they're implemented. Last year, I remember criticizing the plan because there was very little mention about what would happen in culture. And of course, for me as a musician, I think music is the most important thing that could possibly be. And lo and behold, the response is fantastic. There's going to be a cultural manifesto. There's going to be lots of new projects to get culture going and increase participation across the borough, which is all very good. And there's even mention of the Ealing Music Services as well, which is also an unsung organization. Excellent. Careers in the arts mentioned too, that's very good. And I think of a wonderful young man who's a mentor at the Bollowbrook Youth Centre, who's got a scholarship to study drama at the Juilliard School in New York, which is absolutely fantastic. So that is all good. I've seen workspaces, affordable workspaces for craftsmen and for craftspeople rather. You know, that's excellent if they can find space that perhaps keeps an industry going. One of these things nobody's mentioned actually yet is the Section 106, a digital monitoring system for Section 106 payments. Now, we all know about £40,000 here and £6,000 there, but something needs to bind all those things together and check where the money's going and check how it's being spent and develop a strategy there. And if there's a system, if it's implemented, a system that does that, that's all to the good. It's all good aspirations. Will it be delivered? Because, Madam Mayor, if I showed this plan to one of my residents, they turn around to me and say, yes, but you know, when I ring up the council, I can't speak to anyone, my call goes nowhere. You know, this kind of problem. If I showed it to another resident, they say, yes, but there's no response from property regulation. My building's totally overheated. Lots of us have complained about it and we're not getting a response. Nobody's coming to test it. And these are the kind of things, this is the nitty gritty of the council that the report and the plan does not really address. Also, what I would say is that there needs to be a much better focus on participation with the productive sector. That's businesses, that's independent suppliers, sports facilities, and private schools. I know private schools in Ealing, they are dying to take part in the community, dying to play their part. And I don't see anything in this plan which really bigs up that dialogue, and it should. So all I have to say is there's a certain candidate at the moment who we've heard about who says, if it sounds too good to be true, it is not true. Well, listen carefully to the good sense that conservatives talk about in public. That's what he says. Do not overpromise. Do not overpromise, or you will not be able to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And next is Councillor Jasveeranand, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to be supporting this motion today, which sets out how Ealing Council continues to support our communities to make connections, get involved in local activities and thrive, as Councillor Gallant mentioned about the Cultural Manifesto. Madam Mayor, our communities are what makes Ealing very special. We're one of the most diverse parts of the country, and our residents speak a wider range of languages than elsewhere in London. We also have an incredible cultural, arts and youth groups. And let's not forget that our sports community produced the world's class footballer, Ealing's treasure, Bukayo Saka. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, it became clearer than ever how important these support mechanisms are for all of us. It emphasized how crucial it is that everyone, especially our most vulnerable residents, has accessible and active support near where they live. Madam Mayor, COVID also presented incredible challenges for our communities. Our voluntary and community sector has supported more than ever from responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, supporting more refugees and homeless people, and stepping up for our children and young people. We know that the sector has been tested and stretched like never before. That's why, Madam Mayor, we've committed to maintaining their funding for the life of this administration, and we are consulting now on a new program to ensure we are supporting them as much as possible. Madam Mayor, this council plan is about us bringing our partners from across the borough, engaging with our values of openness, transparency and inclusion. And I'll repeat that all evening if I have to, Madam Mayor, because this is what this administration believes in. This year, we have committed to developing and engaging communities in a new community charter, setting out the standards residents can expect from us in engaging with them. We want to move on from the old-fashioned model of presenting our solutions as final with limited opportunity or feedback. Instead, our engagement will hand power back to our communities, and it is outlined earlier. So I have outlined earlier on our ward forums, which will be now turned into town forums, will be positive, open, and community-led, Madam Mayor. In fact, we are already delivering on our manifesto with the new model of engagement. Just yesterday, I was thrilled to attend the official launch event of the Southall Wellbeing Way with Councillor Costigan. This is a 1 million project to transform the canal towpath for active travel, and the proposals were developed with the community by our award-winning social movement, Let's Go Southall. Madam Mayor, I'm just winding up. And we want to take Let's Go Southall a bit further. We will be supporting them to distributing 1,000 bikes to local people, including 35 specially adapted bikes for disabled cyclists. Madam Mayor, this council plan is ambitious and resident focused. We put our Ealing Labour values of openness, transparency, inclusion at its heart, and we're committed to working with our community.
Because of a lady, I give you. And next is a councillor board. Please keep in mind only 3 minutes. Time is going very fast.
I'll try, Madam Mayor. Congratulations to the excellent first-time speakers we've heard, including my colleague next to me, Connie Hirsch, who I'm sure will make a big impression on this council. I'll start with housing. The plan is right to point out that the average Ealing resident now needs 18 times their annual salary to buy a home, and rents have also risen by more than the national average. However, the measures proposed to address this housing crisis are weak. We should be pushing developers up to a 50% level of genuinely affordable housing rather than settling for 35%. And the commitment to provide additional temporary housing places for 100 families across the borough is woefully inadequate. The council should use its powers under the Homelessness Reduction Act to do so much more. I see a commitment to, quote, launch a new tax on developers. That sounds great until you read the detail and realise that all it means is finally implementing SIL, which was introduced by the coalition government in 2010, and Ealing is one of the last councils in the country to get around to implementing it, now scheduled for 2024. Forgive us for not cheering Ealing's administration for moving 14 years late to get more cash from developers. And the best way to ensure that the council seizes the opportunity it has to shape Ealing rather than allowing it to be shaped by greedy developers, is through the long overdue local plan. The local development plan advisory committee has been dormant since the election. This administration doesn't seem to see the urgency that many residents feel for a new local plan to be adopted. We still don't have a conservation officer, and the performance of the planning department, especially in terms of communication with both objectors and applicants, remains poor. The cabinet needs to get to grips with some of these basic issues. And turning to the council's own housing stock, the plan doesn't mention repairs. Delayed and poor quality housing repairs are a huge problem right across the borough. Repairs need to be more responsive. The plan talks about hubs in 4 of the towns of the borough, but the Percival House customer centre still lies closed, so there's little support for central Ealing residents who are not IT savvy. The council claims in this plan to, quote, provide digital support to those who lack the skills or confidence to go online, but time and again we hear from residents that even when they can get inside a council building, this support in practice amounts to pointing at a computer and saying, here you are, get on with it. When will residents of central Ealing have walk-in, in-person access to Ealing Council restored? Finally, Madam Mayor, I'll return to town forums, which I asked about earlier. It's very rare for a politician to admit they were wrong, but I was sceptical when the council scrapped area committees in favour of ward forums. However, I was proven wrong, as the meetings focusing on issues in such a local area galvanised members of the public to take part. There were generally more members of the public at an Ealing Common Ward Forum than at the old Ealing Area Committee covering half a dozen wards. So while greater local spending power is something we've long supported, I see a major danger in moving the basic unit of resident engagement from a ward level to a town level. So just last sentence. It's not escaped my notice that Labour have a majority on each of the 7 towns, while there are 4 wards with an opposition majority. So is the justification for this move that Ealing Labour don't feel confident enough to give any level of power to residents?
Thank you.
Labour?
Thank you. Next is Councillor Stafford.
Thank you very much, Madam
3
Mayor.
minutes only, please.
I will do my best. I'm just winding up. Madam Mayor, in my new role, I am the Conservative spokesman for children education, the public realm and the environment, 3 very meaty subjects. And in 3 minutes, I don't think I'll manage to cover everything, but I will try and cover as much as possible. Firstly, as some of my colleagues have said, there is a lot to welcome in this report. Especially, I think, around the children's area, but there are also a lot of vagaries and aspirations in the boxes which are called deliverables. And as other councillors have mentioned, whilst a lot of these aspirations are welcome, some of the nitty-gritty that in the council is not talked about here, and it's actually where the council is failing. But to talk about children, I welcome a number of the issues, but I would like to see much more clarity. Some of the ideas are either aspirational or wrapped up in jargon. For example, work to support schools to continue to provide good, sustainable provision in a challenging national context of turbulent public demand, migration and complex needs across all ages. What is actually going to be done by this council to do that? Or for example, here, connect children and their families to empowering and enriching opportunities led by community and volunteers. A great aspiration, but what does it actually mean for the children of this borough? One thing I absolutely do welcome in the children is the addition of 30 SEND SEND parent ambassadors for the borough. I noticed they're focusing in Southall and Northall. I hope they would be spread out across the borough. I think we also pledged that we would have 10 link officers when we did the hustings, and I'd like to know when those 10 link officers will be coming in. Moving then on into the environment area, I welcome the fact they're going to use more CCTV for tackling fly tipping, which is a real problem, but can we have some details about where and when and how? I notice and obviously welcome the aspiration to increase to 50% recycling, but given that recycling in this borough has been falling year on year over the last few years, how is that actually going to happen? I notice with some irony, apparently we're going to give out 30,000 leaflets, which seems odd for those of us who are trying to protect the environment and not cut down so many trees. Talking of cutting down trees, I love to see the fact we're still going on about beaver reintroduction. I don't know whether the leader is a recent convert to that rodent or whether he's been a fan of it for years, but it still seems to be on the plan and perhaps actually focusing on some of the areas that really matter to people. Trees, our borough logo is a tree, and it's great that we're going to be planting 50,000 trees. But alongside that, we need to have a radical reform of the trees department. Trees are not watered, they are dying when they're planted. Trees are not being looked after, so they're falling over, they're damaging properties. These are the things that really need to be done. And finally, on the environment, Madam Mayor, you can't have an environmental policy when you continue, this council continues to support the building of monster tower blocks across the borough, for example, at Twyford Abbey or at the Manhattan Business Park. Planning needs to be sorted, and we cannot do that unless this administration is serious about getting to grip with the parts of the council that are currently failing its residents. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You finish in time. And Councillor Menro, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I say congratulations to people making their maiden speeches? Well done. This council plan sets out the Labour administration's bold ambition to make Ealing a more sustainable, fairer and prosperous place. This agenda is ambitious, and during this most challenging period for local government in living memory, there are many challenges. One of them, I mean, if you listen to Martin Lewis, the moneysavingexpert.com website guy, energy bills will be 3,300 per household on average by October. And that is a massive, massive challenge for many of our residents facing high inflation, 9.4%, high energy bills, high grocery bills, and also the problems with Brexit. But I suppose we shouldn't go there because the Tories have their own problems already. I think this plan is ambitious, and it sets out things that we want to really concentrate on: creating good jobs, tackling the climate crisis, fighting inequality. And we do that through good growth, making sure that growth is balanced and sustainable. Now, a lot of people have mentioned my area of work, which is around the local plan, regeneration in the borough. That is an ambitious program there for us to look at the 7 towns, to look at how, as part of the local plan, the regeneration of our 7 towns can be created so that they actually take account of those local areas. Allies and Morrison have been looking at character studies for the 7 local plans, looking at heights, looking at density. The local plan is a very, very important document as part of our ongoing development of Ealing in the next 20 years. We will be publishing the draft local plan in autumn of this year, which will contain all the policies that people can consult on, and members of this chamber will have real advantages in telling us what they think of that plan. And as we move forward in actually trying to put that into practice, we will have a government inspector. There'll be a regulation 19 as well, consultation. So there is a process in place, but we need to make choices. And we need to make choices around how we want development to take place. The opposition wants always to oppose, never to support. And yes, we need the 4,000 generally affordable homes. And yes, we do need to build buildings which are somewhat taller than they were in the past. That's the reality of life. And that planning process takes care of that. So all I would say is this local plan is ambitious. We will get there. We will get the seal. We will get 106 payments in, and we'll make sure that we deliver over the 4 years. It's a 4-year plan, not a 12-month plan.
Thank you. Councillor Basuki, please.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regardless of our differences, the one thing that unites us all in this room, elected representatives and council staff alike, however much we disagree, we are here to do the best we can for the residents of Ealing to deliver the quality of services they want, they need, and rightly expect. This is no doubt, Madam Mayor, that councils are facing a more uncertain financial future as the government continues the national conversation regarding the funding levels for public sector.
This period of uncertainty has now been a reality for over 10 years. We need to be realistic about the challenges ahead. Having robust spending plans will be key to this borough's medium-term financial health. The council faced a budget gap of 72 million over 4 years. On top of that, we are in a period of high inflation that could see budgets squeezed even further, and any spending set out in the council plan could possibly not happen at all. With this in mind, all revenue streams will be crucial in delivering the plan. It will therefore be hard to envisage how this administration will keep council tax low, given the last few years we've seen above inflation increases in council tax without looking to make cuts to frontline services. Being proactive is a golden thread I'd like to see running throughout everything we do in this council. Taking a more proactive and preventative approach also makes sense from an efficiency point of view. One example where the council could have been more proactive is electric vehicle charging points. The council knew for months before ULEZ was introduced and could have planned for more charging points, enabling residents to switch vehicles sooner. Now ULEZ has been implemented. It's due to expand next year, and we'll be needing more charging points catching up. Madam Mayor, there's much to deliver. There will be difficult decisions to make, and there are undoubtedly tough times ahead. However, it's vitally important in getting the basics right, ensuring our streets are clean, collecting our bins, fly tipping is cleared, and our parks are kept clean and tidy. These also play a central role in the health and well-being of our communities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, can I congratulate all those who've made their maiden speeches, not only tonight, but also at the last council meeting. I must say, I think the quality of the maiden speeches has been better than at any time I've served on this council, which is quite a long while. I want to speak tonight about core spending power. For those of you who don't know, core spending power is a measure of the total amount of money that the council has to spend, including council tax, business rates, rate support grant, and all the different grants the government gives, both specific and general. Core spending power has gone up since 2017 in this council, after the years of austerity necessitated by Gordon Brown's economics. You knew that had to come in. Core spending power has increased since 2017, and in the last 3 years has considerably increased. In 2020, it increased by 7.6%, in 2021 by 5.2%, and this year by 6.86%. So in 3 years, core spending power has increased by more than 20%, by a massive £50 million. Our core spending power has gone up from 250 million to over £300 million. And that amount of money enabled the last administration in February of this year to put over £3 million into the reserves, which it probably spent in its May cabinet meeting, along with the 11.6 million of capital growth. We must remember that the paper that we have before us tonight is facilitated by the government largesse, the government generosity, and we should recognise that tonight.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Councillor Elmore, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate all those who made their maiden speeches tonight. As Cabinet Member for Genuinely Affordable Homes, I'm well aware of the scale of the housing challenge that Ealing Council faces. A safe and secure home is fundamental to everything else in your life, but the housing crisis across London has meant that too many people don't have this. The housing crisis affects everyone. In our borough alone, there are over 11,000 families on our housing waiting list who are in desperate need of a home. Many of these families are in unsuitable homes, living in cramped or unsafe accommodation. I believe that everyone should have the chance to grow old in the borough they grew up in, but rents are skyrocketing, and for too many people, home ownership is a distant dream. With the average Ealing resident now needing almost 18 times their annual salary to buy a home. 15,000 people are renting privately in Ealing, and without a regulated renting market, Too many are facing insecurity, the threat of unfair eviction, and unsustainably high rents. Councils like Ealing are on the front line of the housing crisis, and I believe that they are central to providing the solutions we need. Yet without significant government support, and because of the effect of Brexit and rising inflation costs, the challenge facing councils like ours seems insurmountable. But we at Ealing Labour believe that everyone deserves a safe and secure home. This is why I am proud to support a council plan that is relentlessly focused on making this a reality for more and more residents in Ealing. And it's worth noting that when the Tories were in control in Ealing, their council plan virtually didn't mention housing at all. It was all about streets and money and virtually nothing on homes or people. And the two contenders for the leadership nationally also have had very little to say about housing, which is also very, very sad in a housing crisis that's only going to get worse. But we here have a plan that will improve homes for people in our council homes and in the private sector, and to help more people access genuinely affordable homes. And contrary to what Councillor Ball said, we're investing over 500 million in the council's housing stock, which will well serve our repairs as well as our planned maintenance, and ensuring that everyone can live in a safe, secure and healthy home. We're establishing a private renters association in Ealing and extending our private sector licensing scheme, meaning that tenants across the borough will have greater protection and support. We're building more temporary accommodation, and we're working to end the need for families to stay in bed and breakfast accommodation. And we're expanding on the incredible work done during the pandemic for those faced with street homelessness. We'll be delivering 140 places where rough sleepers can be helped back into a home and a job, and we'll be providing them with the mental and physical support they need. Okay, I'll just go to the ending quickly. We will build 4,000 new, safe, sustainable and genuinely affordable homes for residents in Ealing. There are significant challenges ahead, but our council plan sets out a way of delivering this for residents here in Ealing that is bold, ambitious and deliverable. So, Mrs. Mayor, I'm proud to give my full support to this motion.
Councillor Steed, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I won't keep you long this evening, I promise. Which I'm sure you'll all be delighted about. If I could just pick up on a couple of points that have been raised by previous speakers. Can I also initially, sorry, excuse me, congratulate those councillors who've made their maiden speeches, Councillor Kingston, Councillor Weston, and Councillor Hirsch, indeed. Thank you very much, Councillor Mahfouz, for reminding me. Councillor Hirsch indeed made an excellent maiden speech and made reference to the fact, mentioned that word, Europe and Brexit. And I know that officially Labour can't really speak about Europe and Brexit, but I'm delighted to hear from various Labour councillors their appreciation and perhaps their shame, I know, that they didn't fight more during the referendum to ensure that we would remain within Europe and all the benefits that remaining in Europe led to. Okay, a couple of points. Councillor Donnelly had a go at my colleague Councillor Percival earlier about the concern we all share actually about how the council will continue to finance itself. And you listen to the current pantomime that is going on between various Conservative contenders for the leadership, and all they talk about is tax cuts and tax cuts and tax cuts, and they try and outbid each other on tax cuts. And one has to worry genuinely where this is all going to end up for local government funding. And I think it's right that we should express those concerns because they are very, very genuine. And whoever out of those two contenders wins, it's going to be pretty grim for all local authorities and the residents of the borough of Ealing. Again, picking up on some points, Councillor Stafford made an unusually good speech this evening. And I know, indeed, I know. at least I accept my failings. But Councillor Stafford raised the issue of trees, and from Southwood Ward, the whole pruning exercise. I know Labour councils will groan about this because they tend to sort of ignore the issue, and we go on and on and on, and there's still no resolution as to what's happening with the tree service, and you know, the officers in that department, you know,
Thank you.
That can't be 3 minutes. That can't be 3 minutes, surely. Yeah, I mean, Councillor Wall went on for ages about you know, the laughable, genuine, affordable housing, but you know, is that really 3 minutes, Latish? Okay, well, thank you very much.
More than 3. Councillor Kumar, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ealing is a really desirable place to live in, as we all know. And the council plan welcomed by residents. I mean, you know, I'm going to say good, positive things too, you know. So it was interesting to read what the local plan is for. It says it'll be a set of planning policies that will guide the future of a borough in the coming years. It will be interesting to see how future developments are dealt with and residents' concerns taken seriously. So, but on the other side, we're all facing different challenges, especially now more than ever, after what the pandemic has created. It's important that everyone has the opportunity and support to find a good job to help them get on in life. The council's High Street Task Force team and officers, of which I am one, continued to work hard for businesses in the borough. We need to find ways of helping businesses to improve the recruitment and retention of older workers too. We need to find ways of helping businesses to improve the recruitment and retention of these workers and help those who need more support to work, especially people with disabilities and health conditions. Preserving our heritage is precious to our residents, and the need for dedicated conservation officers in the council is what's been asked for. This will regain the confidence that they seem to have lost. And lastly, I'm really looking forward to joining in celebrating the amazing cultures and diversities of our borough. I alone, my family consists of 11 different cultures. So, you know, I just can't wait for that. So, and congratulations to all the maiden speeches.
Thank you, Kumar. Thank you. Nagpal, please. Councillor Nagpal. Where is? Oh.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm having a few technical problems. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And firstly, congratulations to all of those who made their maiden speeches this evening. As Ealing Labour, we are working hard to deliver a fairer start at every stage of a young person's journey. From strong early years provision, through creating the Ealing Learning Partnership to ensure all our schools are performing extraordinarily well, and delivering a highly successful integrated youth service. We have a particular focus on ensuring that children with special educational needs receive the support they need to thrive and achieve. And our record of supporting care leavers remains strong, holding the highest rates of those continuing into higher education anywhere in the country. We work to tackle both the root causes of child poverty through our work on good jobs, better homes, and a targeted financial support system, but also to fight day-to-day hardship through measures like vouchers to provide meals over school holidays and running a very successful holiday activities and food programme. Madam Mayor, 95% of our schools are now rated good or outstanding by Ofsted. In the summer of 2021, we saw the best GCSE results we've ever achieved. Our plans for the next 4 years are clear, Madam Mayor. We are sticking to our commitments to ensure children get the best start in life. To do this, we will be actively fighting the academisation of our schools by the government, a policy that prioritises profits over pupils. As Ealing Labour, we are sick and tired of the decades of failed educational initiatives that Tory governments have subjected our young people to. From the government's utter lack of support of schools throughout the pandemic, to their now poorly conceived green and white paper that will see forced academisation by 2030. Just think about that for a moment. Here we are in Ealing, 95% of our schools rated good or outstanding by Ofsted. Our schools are amongst the top 10% in the country. And the Tories want to cause huge disruption to our excellent schools by forcing academisation on them. We have promised to fight against any attempt by the government on Ealing schools to become academies. We will continue to prioritise our young people through securing high levels of investment into the Ealing Learning Partnership and supporting our core ambition that no learner is left behind. Madam Mayor, our ambitions are not limited to what happens inside the classroom. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now.
Thank you, Nauka.
Madam Mayor, I'm extremely proud of this council plan and how ambitious it is for Ealing's children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Blake, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations to the maiden speeches this evening. I'd congratulate you in more detail, but Madam Mayor would cut me off by the time I'd finished with my platitudes. Only Ealing Labour had anything constructive to say about social care in May. Neither the Tories nor the Lib Dems could bring themselves to acknowledge the damage they have inflicted on our health and care services since 2010. Councillor Conti diagnoses some of the symptoms, but fails to recognise the disease. Social care is in crisis, and we have pledged to fix it. It wouldn't be an easy task, even if the government were helping, but they're not. Despite being oven ready in 2019, key parts of care reforms have now been kicked into the long grass. The funding available to implement reforms is inadequate, even before we consider the rising costs of actually delivering care. We could spend the next 4 years complaining, but we won't. We will get on with the job locally to fix social care. We will ensure every care worker in Ealing is paid the London Living Wage, updating contracts and ensuring that the £2 million we've agreed to invest this year as a first step is focused on the lowest paid first. No one wants to feel they are not in control of their own lives. So in the next year, we'll be working with the community to review and reimagine how people use services and how we empower people to have more control over the support they access. We'll be looking at how we can extend the use of direct payments to give people more power over the money that is spent on their care. And we know that mental health is a priority for so many people, especially following the pandemic. This year, we'll establish local mental health champions to help deal with social isolation, and improve resilience. Those are just some of the new things we are doing. We'll continue to promote independence, to encourage active travel and support healthy lives from day one. And you may have heard about the amazing Let's Go Southall, focusing energy and resource where it's needed to tackle health inequalities. And as an open, transparent and inclusive council, we're not going to bury away what we're doing. This year, for the first time, we'll publish a Health of the Borough report, so Ealing can understand the work that we do across all our services to tackle health inequalities. COVID didn't create those health inequalities, but it exacerbated and highlighted them. The Race Equality Commission demanded that we learn the lessons from the pandemic, and we will. Before I finish, let me tell you what we will not do. We will not stop defending Ealing Hospital, our A&E, or give up demanding that the government gives the NHS the resources it needs to cope with record waiting lists that were building even before the pandemic. Ealing Labour is on your side, and we will fix social care.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Raza, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The pandemic has shone a laser-like focus on the inequalities that sadly remain endemic in our society. Tonight, in the excellent maiden speeches, it was all too often raised these enormous inequalities that we see across our borough. For all too many people in Ealing, housing conditions, employment status, race and disability define how badly they're hit by the crisis, whether this is in health terms or financial terms. We have sought to focus relentlessly on tackling these inequalities, including reducing poverty, taking positive steps to tackle the public health issues that define life chances, and working to provide strong youth service in our borough. We want Ealing to be a beacon. Oh, we've lost ourselves. Hang on with me. We would like Ealing to be a beacon for diversity, where we celebrate our diversity and not just tolerate it. The next steps that we will take will be heavily shaped by the demands of the Ealing Race Equality Commission's demands. In the last year, we've achieved so much. We have welcomed asylum seekers from Syria, Afghanistan, and Ukraine to our borough with a wraparound support service. We've reduced first-time entrants into the Youth Justice Service by 23% and are keeping them out of the criminal justice system. We have supported 96,000 settled status applicants by EU citizens, conducting our Safer Ealing Women's Listening exercise, which we spoke about earlier, to make all our women in the borough feel safe. And I'm incredibly proud that we have accomplished all of this, but we know that there's an enormous challenge ahead of us. We continue to manage to press the wrong buttons. Reset, absolutely. There we go. We continue to see the gaps and opportunities for different communities and across our 7 towns. There remains a stark earning disparity, with the average household in Pitshanger earning around 73,000 compared to 31,000 in parts of Southall, Northolt or Greenford. We will do everything we can to reduce crime, to reduce antisocial behaviour, and work with the police and our partnering organisations to make sure our residents feel safe. Our manifesto commitments, which led to the largest mandate and historical 4th term, highlight how much our promises and commitments resonated with people across Ealing. They felt heard, they felt listened to, and they felt acknowledged. Our pledges are what we will achieve in our 4 years. This council plan is just the first of these 4 years to achieving these ambitions. In tackling inequality, applications for the Citizens Tribunal closed last week. And we hope to let you know more about that in the autumn. In the challenging antisocial behaviour space, we will deliver a framework, which I spoke about earlier as well. And in tackling women's safety, we will be publishing our action. We know our greatest strength is our diversity in our community, and to create a strong and cohesive community, we must forge a new relationship with our residents. Madam Mayor, we are a council led by our communities, for our communities, that looks forward to working with everyone to deliver our ambitious plans in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, please. Next, Mayor Cruz.
Madam Mayor, I stand to commend this council plan. And first of all, congratulations to the brilliant speeches this evening from our maiden speakers in terms of Councillor Hirsch, Councillor Wesson, and I've got to say, Councillor Kingston, good ratio. It's a plan that sets out how ambitious we are as a council. It's ambitious for our residents. It's ambitious for our businesses. It's ambitious for the corner of this planet that we call home here in Ealing. And why? Well, these are some of the most challenging times faced by our residents in their lifetimes. And so we have a plan, a vision for a brighter future. And that's needed because on the doorsteps across the borough, we all heard far too often stories of people who had been let down by a government that had failed to level up. Stories of those forgotten and left behind by a government too busy serving wine, whilst our residents were being served P45s. But that's why this plan shows they have a council that's on their side, listening and acting on their needs to deliver on the critical need to deliver a decent living income. And we, as a council, have already got to work on this plan. And in the first 3 months, let me tell you not what we're going to do, what we've already done to show you that we are absolutely committed to delivering on the plan. Councillor Wesson asked for an update. 775 people already in new jobs here in Ealing. We've already secured a creative enterprise zone in Acton. And we've already launched our partnership to deliver in the heart of enterprising Southall, an incubation hub for small businesses, startups at Southall Manor House. We've heard already, of course, about 4 community hubs up and running, delivering support on the doorsteps of those facing the cost of living crisis. We've already been accredited to lead by example. We've been accredited by the Good Business Charter and supported a dozen pioneering businesses establish themselves and grow in our borough. We've already created 56 apprenticeships. We've developed plans to developing plans to deliver 20-minute environmentally friendly town centres. 293 people of some of the people that we've been talking about this evening facing the most challenging circumstances to get into work, those who are homeless, those young people, those with disabilities, 293 already supported. 772 newly qualified residents. And as we sit in this chamber, thousands of families are benefiting from our campaign to get school holiday funding for those on the lowest incomes. Madam Mayor, whilst this is called a council plan, the most important thing that this is that this is not a plan for the council, but a plan for those who live in, who work in, who call Ealing their home. It's a plan for a more sustainable, fairer and prosperous place. It is a plan that will deliver decent living incomes. It is a plan, Madam Mayor, for the people of Ealing to be proud of their borough.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we're all unusually aware of the death rattle of the Deputy Mayor's alarm. So I'm cutting out half of this already. But I want to start by referencing a couple of points that have been made. Councillor Malcolm took us to task for failures we haven't yet committed, which even as a lapsed Catholic, I found a little excessive. What I will say is, when we change council tax support, it will be to expand it. It will be to include more of the people who need it. We may look to change its method of operation to make it easier to understand and to access, but obviously we will consult widely as and when we choose to do so. Councillor Steed's point, I don't make light of the issues that surround us, and I don't know whether you watched the cabinet meeting, but I followed up to Councillor Busuttil by saying I can't be sure of anything. I can't be sure of anything with inflation at 10%. I can't be sure of anything when I don't know who the Prime Minister is going to be from one week to the next, when I don't know what the economic policy of the country is going to be from one week to the next. And Councillor Young, I'm sure it's absolutely true that in all the years he's been here, he hasn't seen a better group of maiden speeches. But in the 200+ meetings of this council he's attended, he himself will not have uttered such a lot of shameless guff as he uttered tonight. Anybody who looks at the MTFS report and sees us projected for a £38 million deficit on a moderate prediction of inflation will understand that the fairyland of finance that he has talked about in his sensational core spending power is nothing more than for the birds. So we in this administration, in my portfolio, we will support all of the wonderful work that you've heard being done. We will ensure that the businesses of this borough are able to contribute. And in fact, we will oblige them to contribute fairly within the community. And we will ensure that this is a borough whose finances are run for the benefit of the people, for the benefit of the whole administration, and whose employees, as well as whose citizens, will play a vital role in the delivery of those services. And I'm not going to push my luck. I'm going to aim to be the first person to sit down now before the alarm rings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is a Councillor Baines, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week's record-breaking temperatures put many public services under immense pressure, And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those on the front line for working through such conditions and making sure everyone was kept safe. Heat waves are becoming more extreme. Is this the new norm? I personally was struggling last week. In Southall Park, a fire spread in a wild meadow and was put out by the residents collecting water in watering cans, a notable example of community spirit and the love of our parks. Green spaces were a significant hub during the pandemic, the only areas that allowed us to meet and see our loved ones. That's why our Ealing plan continues to protect, expand, and invest in our provision of green spaces. Climate emergency is a global and national issue. However, we must start at home and in our communities first. Our Ealing plan puts the climate emergency at the heart of the local movement. Ealing's plan proposes 10 new parks in our borough, developing ecosystems and the development of our regrowing, rewilding, and replanting. Our pledge is to plant 50,000 more trees, and experts say in the midst of the heat wave, last week's temperatures were 5 degrees less when standing near or under a tree. Dr. Lee, in his book, Into the Forest, says, just 2 hours of daily forest or tree bathing is a great for physical and mental well-being and brings a state of relaxation. Our green plan will protect our communities from the dangers of air pollution. Our new homes will be designed to meet net zero carbon standards and provide the opportunity to create new jobs and skills. We aim to deliver 2,500 low carbon homes, which are safe, energy efficient, and financially sustainable to live in. Our green infrastructure plan meets a safer space for people to travel in by walking or cycling. More electric vehicle charging points to support the transition from fossil fuels to green energy. Our Ealing plan not only deals with the climate emergency, but is also tackling deep inequalities to create a fairer society which stands for social justice. We need a greener, fairer future. Whilst changes are made to resolve our climate change, we need to protect and stand up for those who can least afford it and are hit the hardest. We are doing this with a huge burden of cuts to our local government budgets, which have cleaned out 169 million of Ealing's government settlement. This means we must do more with less. We will, however, aim to reach our target to become carbon neutral by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The last, Daniel Crawford, please. Not more than 3 minutes.
I'll try, Madam Mayor. Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak in this chamber for the first time in almost 4 years. I'd like to begin by paying tribute to the Ealing residents who we've lost in that period of time. We've also lost 3 revered Actonians who are no longer with us. My colleagues paid fitting tribute to my predecessors, former councillors John Delaney and Paul Woodgate, while I was watching on Zoom. Their styles may have been different, but their impact for the people of Acton was remarkable. I certainly wouldn't be in this chamber were it not for their support, understanding, love and encouragement. Acton is, of course, still grieving the devastating loss of my constituent Jamal Edwards, someone who changed the game for so many young people, a proud resident of, first of all, Luton, as the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Anderson will want to remind me, but also of Friary Park and later of the new North Acton ward. He invested the proceeds from his own success into the next generation, and his impact went well beyond Acton. We will have to carry forward Jamal's outstanding legacy in his memory. While he rests in power, we will not let you down, Jamal. This council plan that we're discussing this evening is bold. It's right to be bold, no more so than in health and social care, as my colleagues from the Cabinet have outlined. The health panel has already undertaken its work to begin scrutinising those proposals. It will need to be councils, as my colleagues have pointed out, who will innovate and lead on these measures, because the clapped out disgrace of a Conservative government has declined to act on social care like so many other issues over the last 12 years. They'll be thrown out of office. I'm sure of that. The people of Ealing knew years ago that you couldn't trust the Conservatives with the NHS. They spoke with one voice about the dangers of downgrading Ealing and Charing Cross hospitals. And we saw how pivotal those services were in the last 4 years. Just imagine how devastating the pandemic would have been without blue light ambulance access to Ealing and Charing Cross hospitals. I look forward to honouring the heroism of our NHS heroes with you, Madam Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and colleagues going forward. I'm going to scrap the rest of my prepared remarks in order to ensure that my Chief Whip and the Deputy Leader get to sum up in the debate. But I would just like to conclude, Councillor Anand referenced the role model from Greenford, Bukayo Saka, earlier this evening. Hamwell is so proud of Chloe Kelly, who's on the field at Bramall Lane this evening as the Lionesses lead 3-0 against Sweden and will go to the European Championship final. We look forward to welcoming her back to Hamwell Town after the final on Sunday, perhaps with the trophy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Daniel, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Sum up, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to everybody who spoke in tonight's debate. I want to particularly congratulate the new councillors who made their maiden speeches tonight, starting with Councillor Wesson, who I've knocked on doors with in Pitshanger Ward, and I know will make a great councillor for people living there. Of course, also Councillor Kingston, who I count as a good friend, who I've known for many years, both fellow Irish people in the good borough of Ealing. And I look forward, Councillor Kingston, with getting on the bike with you and going around your ward. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. And thank you for giving us the biggest laugh of the night, definitely. With your reference to the Lib Dems. Talking of which, also congratulations to Councillor Hirsch for your maiden speech, and particularly for your mention of responsible opposition, which I really do appreciate you coming in that way. You mentioned recycling in flats. I'd be delighted to tell you all about our food waste from flats that we just rolled out earlier in the year, and to bring you on a visit anytime you would like to have a look at that great new service that we've rolled out. I want to also thank all of the cabinet members who've spoken tonight on the ambitious plans that they've been working on in their area of responsibility. I know there's been a lot of hard work. Actually, I don't think we've done this to the detail that we've done this time ever before. I don't think any Ealing administration has ever done it. We've taken those promises we made to residents and we've made them real, and we've turned them into actual concrete improvements that we can deliver on and that we can show that we've delivered on. And just to turn to then some of the opposition speakers, Councillor Malcolm, I'm grateful for your support on getting the funding that London and Ealing deserves from Transport for London. But can I also reassure you that Ealing is absolutely committed to active travel and to transport improvements. We have committed 35 million of our own money to improving the roads and pavements in this borough. We've committed 10 million active travel money as well. So we will be doing that, whether or not the government gets its finger out and actually funds this borough properly. We're committed to active travel, even if the Conservative government isn't. I must say, I know you mentioned that you'd read this this great plan, and you mentioned that you passed a motion a few years ago, or put in a motion a few years ago. That's what governing is all about. It's not about going through the motions, as they say. It's actually about delivering, making a real difference to people's lives. And, I have to mention, once again, you mentioned climate change. Yet again, I'm going to have to mention Fisher's Lane. You were absolutely against it. You remain against it. That is an active travel initiative. And, if you are going to represent the whole of the borough, people will find you out if you're saying one thing in your own ward and something different in the council chamber. Just in terms of the second party, the Conservative Party, Councillor Young, I think Councillor Donnelly has already found you out there. But I think that tonight you showed as much of a grasp of economics as Liz Truss. But unlike her, you couldn't manage to keep your face straight when you said it. She's a better televisual performer, I think, on that one. I know Councillor Conti, it very much sounded to me, Councillor Conti, that you did not want us to listen to our residents on Garnell. Actually, as this whole council plan says, we're very keen on listening to residents. We want to listen listen to residents. And that's why we were asking them what they want in a new swimming pool, which we are going to build. And it will be the kind of swimming pool and facility that local families want. And that's why we're asking them the question. I know similarly, yeah, I'm almost finished, Madam Mayor. I know on low traffic neighbourhoods, you equally did not want to listen to local people. It seems from outside of the council chamber tonight, where I met 4 Conservative members masquerading as members of the public, and there is just failed Tory councillors that you want to listen to. Well, Ealing Labour is listening to Ealing residents. Finally, I think Councillor Conti, I did think for a moment, had you taken over as a leader of the Conservative group? But then, of course, when Councillor Gallant got up to speak, I realised it was because Councillor Gallant, the real leader, hadn't read the council plan. He skipped to the back page. Unbelievable. But then, he's that kind of character, a bit of a Just William. So can I just finally can I say, Madam Mayor, the vote on this council plan took place on the 5th of May and residents overwhelmingly backed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep in mind that look at the time now. Everyone spoke very nice. I appreciate everyone. So we have heard the debate and the recommendations have been moved. And second, are they agreed? All those in favor? Second, yes, that's agreed.
Take a vote, please.
All those in favor, please put your hands up. All those are against, only few. Any abstentions? No? So the recommendations are therefore carried.
Next item on that page.
I call on Councillor Donnelly to move the recommendations. Is that second? Are the recommendation agreed?
I can't do all those things at once, Madam Mayor, but I move the reports in my name.
And seconded, Madam Mayor.
Agree.
Thank you very much, each and everyone, and the officers, Sam and you. So really, we enjoyed the meetings. So the time is really, everybody's tired. Might be the hot weather. Come with me, have a drink and snacks in my. Thank you very much.